Every exhaled breath carries a chemical receipt of cellular metabolism. Carbon dioxide is produced deep within the cellular tissue, diffuses into the capillary stream, and is transported to the alveoli to be expelled. Capturing and reading that receipt is the role of capnography. It is the continuous monitoring of carbon dioxide concentrations versus time within a gas mixture. To understand the data, we separate the equipment into 3 parts. First, the capnometer is the physical device calculating the numerical concentration. Next, the capnograph is the hardware generating the continuous waveform. Finally, the capnogram is the visual tracing displayed on the monitor. Interpreting these signals requires integrating the hardware that captures the gas, the physics that analyze it, and the underlying patient physiology that shapes the resulting waveform. Before gas can be analyzed, it must be routed from the patient's circuit to the sensor. There are 2 distinct physical methods to achieve this. The first is the side stream technique. Here, a small sample of gas, usually 50 to 150 milliliters per minute, is continuously withdrawn via a sampling tube near the endotracheal tube and transported to a distant device for evaluation. This keeps the patient interface extremely light and allows the sampling port to be used for administering bronchodilators. However, the long transit distance creates a delayed response time and leaves the narrow tube highly susceptible to obstruction from water vapor condensation and patient secretions. The alternative is the mainstream or direct flow-through technique. In this setup, no sampling is required. The total volume of inspired and expired gas passes directly through a sensing device located right at the endotracheal tube. Because the sensor sits directly in the humid airflow, its measuring chamber is warmed to 40 degrees Celsius to prevent water vapor from condensing on the sensor window. This heating element carries a known risk of causing thermal burns to the patient. Mainstream capnography avoids delays and moisture traps of a sampling system, making it very accurate with a fast response time. But the sensor block is large and heavy. It adds significant dead space in pediatric patients, and its weight can cause kinking of the endotracheal tube. The choice of hardware dictates the speed, accuracy, and potential physical risks of the diagnostic data received. Once the gas reaches the sensor, the machine must calculate the concentration. The most common technology used for this, especially with side stream sampling, is infrared analysis. Gases with 2 or more dissimilar atoms have specific infrared light absorption spectra. When a broad spectrum of infrared light is beamed through the sample, carbon dioxide molecules absorb very specific wavelengths. The machine determines the concentration by comparing the amount of light absorbed against a known standard. This is achieved either through Blackbody radiation, which uses a heated element and filters to block outside radiation, or Microstream technology, which relies on lasers and excited nitrogen molecules to emit light precisely matching the absorption spectrum of CO2. Beyond electronic sensors, there is chemical colorimetric analysis. This is a semi-quantitative, portable alternative that encloses a pH-sensitive indicator inside a housing. When exhaled gas passes through, CO2 reacts with water to form carbonic acid, making the environment acidic. The acidity triggers a color change that correlates directly to concentration. Purple indicates low CO2, below 0.5%. Beige marks moderate levels. Yellow confirms high CO2, meaning a concentration greater than 2%. Because this relies on basic chemistry, it has vulnerabilities. Ingested antacids or carbonated drinks can create a false positive by chemically mimicking an acidic exhalation. Conversely, a low tidal volume or severely compromised lung perfusion can result in a false negative. Understanding these underlying physics prevents the provider from being misled by equipment artifacts or chemical false readings. This image displays a normal capnograph, often referred to as a top hat or sine wave shape. The height depends strictly on the end-tidal CO2 concentration, while the frequency of the waves maps the respiratory rate. Phase 1, spanning from points A to B, is the inspiratory baseline. It represents the inspiratory gas, which is essentially devoid of CO2, meaning the baseline normally rests at 0. Phase 2 is the expiratory upstroke. This rapid S-shaped upswing represents the transition gas emptying from the anatomical dead space. Phase 3 is the plateau phase. This nearly flat plateau represents the CO2-rich gas emptying steadily directly from the alveoli. The absolute end of phase 3 at point D is the end tidal point. This single point represents the highest concentration of exhaled CO2 before the next breath begins. Phase 4 is the inspiratory downstroke. This represents the immediate drop as the patient inhales fresh CO2-free gas, causing the measured levels to abruptly fall back to zero.
The morphology is further defined by its angles. The alpha angle, located between phases 2 and 3, normally sits between 100 and 110 degrees. The beta angle, between phase 3 and the descending limb, is roughly 90 degrees. If the alpha angle increases, creating a slanted upstroke, it signals airway obstruction or the application of PEEP. The normal waveform provides a real-time mechanical map of the patient's respiratory cycle. When that map disports, the specific shape of the distortion identifies the underlying failure. Pathological deviations in the waveform shape provide immediate diagnostic feedback based solely on geometry. This chart displays cardiogenic oscillations. These small rhythmic ripples along the descending limb are caused by the physical beating of the heart against the lungs during exhalation. This tracing demonstrates an incompetent inspiratory unidirectional valve. The plateau is prolonged, but instead of a sharp drop, it features a slanting inspiratory downstroke, preventing the wave from returning to zero. Here we see an irregular baseline. This uneven plateau indicates displacement of the endotracheal tube into the upper larynx or lower pharynx, resulting in the intermittent ventilation of both the stomach and the lungs, or it can be caused by external pressure on the chest. This waveform reveals a distinct sloped geometry caused by a leak in the sample line during intermittent positive pressure ventilation. A second set of deviations point toward different mechanical failures. This graph illustrates a biphasic expiratory plateau. The clefted dual peak is characteristically seen in cases of severe kyphoscoliosis or during single lung ventilation. This tracing shows a rounded, prolonged waveform, removing the clear phase transitions. This signals a severe airway obstruction. This chart highlights sampling contamination. The erratic stepped plateaus occur when the sample is contaminated with fresh gas or ambient air, often due to a leak or a sampling site placed too close to a fresh gas flow inlet. Here, the jagged stretched waveform is the direct result of a sampling rate that is set too low on a side stream analyzer. This tracing displays the Curare Cleft, a sharp notch appearing in the last third of the alveolar plateau. The Curare Cleft occurs when a spontaneously breathing patient lacks synchronous action between the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm, often as muscle relaxants begin to wear off. Finally, this chart shows rebreathing. The baseline is elevated above zero, meaning CO2 is constantly present. This is caused by exhausted chemical absorbent, a bypassed canister, or a malfunction in the non-rebreathing valve. Recognizing these specific morphological deviations allows an astute provider to instantly diagnose mechanical failures or physiological shifts long before vital signs crash. Once the waveform shape has been verified as normal, the final analytical step is capnometry, interpreting the raw numerical data. Normal end tidal CO2 values range from 35 to 45 millimeters of mercury. Physiologically, there is a narrow gradient between the arterial partial pressure of CO2 in the blood and the end tidal CO2 in the breath, usually just a 1 to 5 millimeter difference, with the arterial pressure slightly higher. If the waveform is normal but the numerical value is elevated, the patient is retaining carbon dioxide. The causes range from hypoventilation to hypermetabolic states like sepsis or the onset of malignant hyperthermia. Conversely, a normal waveform with a decreased end tidal value points to hyperventilation, hypothermia, clinical shock, or a pulmonary embolism reducing the gas exchange. If the end tidal value abruptly drops to zero with an absent waveform, it is an absolute emergency. It indicates a total circuit disconnection, complete patient apnea, or a ventilator malfunction. When the gradient between arterial blood and exhaled gas widens beyond 5 millimeters, it indicates that blood and gas are failing to meet at the alveoli. This happens during increased dead space ventilation, right-to-left cardiac shunts, or states of severe hypoperfusion,
where decreased pulmonary blood flow strands CO2 in the blood, unable to be exhaled. Because of its immediate sensitivity to gas exchange, capnography has broad clinical uses beyond continuous monitoring. It is used to confirm correct placement of an endotracheal tube, requiring the presence of stable end-tidal CO2 for more than 3 successive breaths. It is also used during resuscitation. The numerical readouts assess the effectiveness of CPR in real time, better than an ECG or a pulse check, as exhaled CO2 proves that blood is circulating through the lungs. Capnography functions as a synthesis tool, translating the physics of gas, the mechanics of equipment, and the hidden physiology of the patient into a single continuous line. Reading that line correctly forms a critical early warning system.